A student asked me a great question. How was the course content decided? Such a great question to ask about every course. The answer is complex because it has to do with really generations of how art history has been taught, and an attempt to kind of organize the vastness of global history of world cultures into manageable units, right? So this class is called Asian Art History, but I put at the top here a little quotes, provocative quotes, to get you realizing that there's no one thing called Asia. Asia is not one, refers to kind of a discussion that happened in the field of Asian studies, which was kind of reminding people that there is no one thing, no one unified cultural identity that is Asia. In fact, Asia, what I say here, Asia is not Asia. Asia is part of what we would more accurately call Eurasia, right? So westernmost Eurasia over here extends into Central Asia, Eurasia, Southern Eurasia, Eastern Eurasia, and we've got Northeast Eurasia, because this is really a continuous continent with an intertwined history. The idea that kind of Asia is one separate thing is a flawed understanding that is based on largely that we inherit categories that have to do with racial categories that have been debunked, right? There are no separate racial groups that live here that are separate from here or from here. So we know this in terms of modern scientists has shown genetically we are all African under the skin. Historians have long known that these kind of broad categories such as Asia that we use now are modern artifacts. They are modern artificial creations. In fact, if you study history closely, people mostly identify themselves in much smaller kind of groups, in regional groups, so that they identified with kind of a local place, a local language, and those changed, and there was frequent interaction among small local groups. Over time, roughly around the 1500s into the 1600s, you start to get the idea of the modern nation state. So this map shows you modern nations as we know them today. Iran, Afghanistan, India. I meant to say Pakistan there, excuse me. Afghanistan here, Pakistan, India, and so on. And then in Western Eurasia, right, Turkey, Ukraine. But a nation state is an abstract concept, and it is built around a very big number, a big population, a large population that often has tremendous diversity in their inheritance, right? So when we look at Southern Eurasia in our first unit, we'll see that it's closely tied to the history of Pakistan, the history of Afghanistan, and the history of what we today call Iran. So the term Asia is misleading, is what I'm saying. It's actually an ancient Greek word that was referring to the Persian Empire, which covered territory that we now know as Turkey and Iran. So we'll try to maintain a consciousness in this class that those kind of ideas of racial categorization and modern nation states didn't yet exist. We'll try to reconstruct kind of the kind of complex weave, a changing weave of what did exist. And we'll be looking at the great philosophical and cultural traditions that primarily as they emerge in Southern Eurasia, South Asia, and Eastern Eurasia, China, Japan, Korea. We don't look at as much at Central Eurasia. We do a little bit because we're looking at how it comes into what we today call India. We don't look as much at Southeast Asia because that's a rich tapestry that we don't really get to focus on, since what we're doing here is looking at what we could call the mother cultures. The mother cultures that wind up actually creating certain traditions that that ripple out, that spread out and become influential. Although we also get a tradition of Persian painting rippling in. Because we can't do everything. So one of the ways the course content is decided is painfully, by making painful decisions about what you can and cannot include, making decisions that we're trying to lay a groundwork, a foundation for you to then build more knowledge about this kind of amazing complexity that goes by the name Asia, but is so much more than just one thing.